The Texans with yet another close loss. I'm really not smiling about that. It's getting a little bit old, but I know fantasy owners must have been thrilled, Andy, with Dameon Pierce's breakout game. Brandin Cooks finally making an appearance. Nico Collins doing a little bit of something. So there's some good fantasy stuff in there.
Well, definitely for Dameon Pierce, and as somebody who has Pierce on a couple of teams, yeah, I was definitely thrilled with last week's performance. If you're looking at it from a real life perspective and a fantasy perspective, obviously some frustration at the continued involvement of Rex Burkhead, but even with him popping in on occasion, Pierce did great last week, and certainly I think anybody that has them has a weekly starter going forward with a lot of upside. Cooks obviously we know is going to probably have a little bit of hit or miss element in fantasy because of the inconsistencies of Davis Mills. But yes, it was nice to see him get a touchdown. He obviously still gets a decent amount of targets, so he's somebody you can keep starting moving forward. It was nice to see the best game of the season from Nico Collins, but at this point, I'd say he's still bench fodder or maybe even waiver wire fodder in some leagues. I think the best you're going to get there is maybe an emergency starter during buys. But bye weeks start next week. In fact, the Texans are actually off next week along with Detroit. So after that, the buys will really start cooking up. So if Collins can get going, that certainly could make him at least useful in an emergency situation during the bye week period.
Yeah, I forgot. It's already on us. It's here. Bye weeks. It goes quickly. And the Texans, they get the Jags this Sunday in Jacksonville. The Jags ranked 8th in the league in rushing defense, but despite Dameon Pierce's lighter workload so far, he's 10th in the NFL in total yards. I looked that up today. Could not believe it. 5.2 yards per carry, Andy. He's 3rd in the NFL among running backs with at least 60 carries. He's only behind, get this, Texans fans, Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley. Do you think this Jags defense is good enough to slow Pierce down this week?
To a degree, but I don't think, even though Jacksonville has shown improvement, I'm not sure that they're a shutdown unit at this point. They did well on Jonathan Taylor back in week 2. Austin Eckler did not have the game he had against them that he had against the Texans, but that also was a bit of a game flow situation. This is one of the better running backs in theory, given that Taylor and Eckler struggled against them. This is a real good test for Jacksonville, getting a guy like Pierce. And last week they did give up 2 touchdowns to Miles Sanders. So I think Pierce can still make an impact in this game.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.